I think we're ready to get things kicked off here. On behalf of Suren, Jenny, and Dr. Ryan Fortna, my name is Michael, and we welcome you to this webinar. It's one we're really excited about. From systems of record to systems of action, we're going to go into great detail as to what the current state is in the clinical laboratory and among pathology groups, and then we're also going to take a good look at what use cases can be applied today and also in the very near future as we look to transform what the modern LIS is. So we have a packed agenda here. We have a lot to get through. We'll start talking about the LIS system, what it was, how it's evolving. We're going to have real-world use cases. Suren, Jenny, and Ryan will go through what they've seen, what's worked for them. We'll have a bit of a look at what AI has to play as far as a role in the future. We'll discuss benefits across the lab and then strategic takeaways before giving everybody an opportunity for an interactive Q&A with our expert guests here. So with that, I am very happy to say welcome to Suren, and I toss it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael, and appreciate being here with everyone. So I wanted to start off with a story. It's not a fairy tale, but it's one that's very real for all labs today. So it's not a case study. It's not an outlier. It's what's happening in every single lab. And it starts something like this. Once upon a time, there was a growing laboratory. It's busy, it's trusted, and absolutely drowning in data. Like most labs, they have a great LIS on paper, but each department works in a vacuum. Histology never knows if pathology is behind. Billing only sees errors weeks later. Their system records everything, but helps with nothing. So they have patient data, specimens, accession logs, billing codes, audit trails maybe. But when decisions need to be made, urgent ones, everyone scrambles. The reports are outdated, buried, requires manual efforts to extract. Teams work overtime just to stay reactive. One day, a sample is misrouted. Delays piled up, and a critical diagnosis was held up. And while no one made a catastrophic mistake, everyone knew that their system didn't help them in the moment of need. The lab was just collecting data, but not using it. That's when leadership realized a system of record wasn't enough. They needed a system of action. And that story isn't fiction. It's reality for many laboratories today. So let's go to the next slide and see what we're going to discuss in this webinar, right? We're going to learn about what it really means to make the leap from a passive system of record to an active system of action. This leap is not something that just stores your data, right? But it actually uses it to drive faster, smarter decisions across your operation. And at LigoLab, this transition isn't just a slogan, it's our framework. One that transforms your LIS from a silent database into an intelligent engine that detects issues, automates your workflow, helps predict outcomes, and proactively supports your team. The problem is that most labs today still operate as a system of record. But the future, it's active, it's real, and intelligent. Welcome to the age of system of action. Now, let's move forward to the next slide, please, and see why this is happening, why now? Why are labs evolving and need to evolve, right? What's pushing this shift from a static system of record to a dynamic system of action? We all know the volumes and complexities of testing is increasing. We got molecular, genetic, outreach tests growing, and all of these require a lot of moving pieces, tighter coordination, and of course, fast turnaround times are needed. Legacy systems can't keep up with this speed. And modern labs are expected to operate fast and with quality. Second, we have a massive issue with staffing and recruitment challenges. From grossing techs to billing analysts to pathologists, teams and labs are stretched thin. That means we have to do more of the heavy lifting as systems or as information service providers. They have to be, we have to be intelligent, assisting, and proactive. Otherwise, burnout wins in the laboratory. Third, labs are still flying blind. Reports come in on a weekly or monthly basis. Someone has to go and run them. By the time leadership sees a problem, it's already causing delays or rework or even worse. This lack of visibility creates many blind spots. You can't optimize what you can't see. Bottlenecks are normalized. Productivity varies widely across teams. Issues are caught after damage is done. If you can't see what's happening in real time, you can't fix it, right? So we can't let bottlenecks grow because productivity will tank. And small issues become very expensive. That's why labs are evolving. And in today's environment, what you don't see, you can't fix, and it will hurt you. As if all of this wasn't enough, we also have to deal with compliance and audit risk. We got CAP, CLIA, HIPAA, SOC 2, all these different acronyms, right? They all demand traceability, quality control, and rapid response. Manual tracking and disconnected data won't cut it anymore. Next, we have financial pressure. Reimbursements, nothing new to everyone here. Reimbursements are shrinking and costs are rising. And every operational inefficiency now comes at a real price. And labs are starting to feel this. They can't grow longer and afford to manually patch broken processes or wait weeks to understand what went wrong. And finally, expectations are changing from physicians, patients, and leadership. Labs are no longer behind the scenes utilities. They're mission critical operations. And they're expected to deliver insights, not just results. So what's driving this evolution? It's the perfect storm of economic pressure, operational complexity, staffing limitations, and rising expectations all point toward one truth. Labs that don't evolve won't survive. But those that do, they'll be faster, smarter, and future-proof. Let's look at what this evolution actually looks like. So, what is a system of action, right? It's a dynamic system that can sense, interpret, and respond. So, we're going to start diving into more real-time, real-world, and tactical things. So, starting high level, and we'll have our panelists help us bring this closer and closer to us. So, first, on the proactive, right? It's when you know when something is off before it becomes a problem. Whether there's a turnaround delay, some bottleneck, backlog, there's a missing specimen, your system should tell you. Not after the fact, not in a spreadsheet, right now in real time. Next, automation is key to staying and thriving in this environment. Think of it like having a rule engine always working behind the scenes. That's basically becomes digital workforce for the laboratory. Instead of relying on manual routing or intervention, the system knows what to do, and it does it for you. Whether it's auto-verifying, accessioning, flagging errors, or routing cases based on complexity, priority, stage of the case. It's all built in, it's flexible, and it's not bolted on. Everything has to be real time, starting with the dashboards. You should be having them, have dashboards ready to go by different rules, by different departments, not just generic reports. Pathologists need to see what they need. Billing teams need to see what matters to them. And leadership needs to have the full pulse of the lab without asking for updates. It's personalized visibility, and it needs to be instant. And finally, it's not just a system of a software. This is a system that we need to roll out as an entire operation. So it's not just something that we act on, we have to evolve with. We're capturing exceptions, tracking outcomes, and tuning the rules. As we learn more, we go back and we continuously learn from this and improve the system. So Kaizen, applying Kaizen to the whole thing and just rinse and repeat, basically. So that's the power of a system that doesn't just store data, it uses it to act, adapt, and move your lab forward. With this, I'll pass it on to Jenny and Dr. Fortna to go over real-world scenarios of systems in action that hopefully inspire you to implement some of the learnings in your laboratory today. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Suren. To your point, every lab out there is looking for ways to make their operations more efficient, to address staffing issues, turnaround time, bottlenecks. It's never ending. I've yet to talk to a lab that says my day is kind of boring and things are slow and I don't have any problems. So I'm going to pick up from where Suren left off on a story a little bit. And imagine you come into your lab on a Monday morning and there's a dashboard right there waiting for you. So dashboards are designed so that when you arrive in the lab each morning, the live dashboard greets you, immediately highlights any workflow bottlenecks from stalled specimens and transport to data entry holdups. So you can step in before delays escalate and become problems. You can compare performance across sites and in shifts in real time. You can pinpoint high performers and share their best practices while reallocating resources where the data shows it's needed. During inspections, you're able to pull up a complete audit trail of quality metrics, corrective actions, and trend lines with a single click. So no more, running through the lab, frantically trying to pull a report, look through logs. Your command center view keeps productivity and error rates front and center for leadership. So everyone knows at a glance where to focus. If you're behind at the embedding station, you can shift staff. If cutting has hit a head bottleneck, you can move things around. So it really helps you to know at a glance where you need to focus your resources. As soon as KPI drifts beyond its set threshold, your team receives an instant notification and has the ability to launch a rapid root cause analysis to correct course each day, not retroactively, a week later when you're realizing that there's a problem that needs to be addressed. And more importantly, each week you can celebrate the biggest improvements on a live leaderboard with your team, effectively turning continuous improvement into a collective win rather than a to-do list. And this is not just a record of what happened, it's an action engine that drives your lab forward every day. Dashboards are an incredibly powerful tool that labs can utilize daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. That data is always there. It's traceable and available to you and your staff. Let's go to the next slide. So the case assignment module is another really valuable tool that labs can use to streamline operations. And in talking with teams, we hear that case assignment in each individual lab, depending on size and complexity, can take anywhere from an hour to 3 hours out of staff's day. So having a system of action and automated rules-based engine in the background is a huge asset. When you open the case assignment module, the system automatically distributes new cases based on your predefined rules, whether by subspecialty, location, or current caseload. So you never have to sort them by hand. At the same time, the integrated calendar displays each pathologist's availability, including time off and other commitments, in a familiar interface, ensuring every site and shift is covered. Keeping case distribution and scheduling together in one platform means you eliminate the hassle of syncing separate tools, and you can dramatically reduce the chance of errors. And because you can tailor workflow balancing rules, splitting cases evenly across the on-duty team, or prioritizing urgent work, you can guarantee both fairness and consistency in how your work flows through your lab. You'll also gain detailed insights into assignment trends and individual workloads, enabling data-driven adjustments to staff and shift planning. A unified approach turns scheduling and case distribution from an administrative chore into strategic levers that drive your lab's efficiency and consistency. So a process that can take 2 to 3 hours every day can be done in 10 to 15 minutes, fully automated based on rules that you create for your lab and your workflow. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Sorry, one second here. So positivity rate swings and the QC module. When you review positivity tracking analytics with the QC module and tracking, the dashboard will call out any unexpected swings in your positivity rates. So you can catch reagent degradation or instrument drift before it impacts results. As positivity climbs, let's say during flu season, it's a good example, you see the forecasted specimen volume and can adjust staffing, reagent orders, and maintenance schedules to meet the demand. You can even compare positivity curves across sites to spot emerging local clusters or identify high-performing workflows, and then tie those trends back to downstream testing revenue for sharper budgeting and supply chain planning. I think we've all been caught in situations COVID's a great example, trying to stay ahead of staffing, planning, reagents, scheduling, flu seasons, even just regular shifts in volume in anatomic pathology can benefit from this. And then on the QC side, the system constantly calculates standard deviation metrics within and between runs. So this flags subtle shifts in assay performance long before you hit traditional control limits. And when you swap reagents or calibrator lots, the dashboard highlights any deviation from established baselines, keeping your method bias-free. And because all of your values are stored and visualized, you can breeze through your method validation or verification. This also helps you demonstrate precision to any of your auditors with CLSI guidelines. So when CAP comes in, CLIA, JACO, whoever inspects your laboratory, you can provide all this data without digging through the dreaded paper logs and run records. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Fortna to continue with some examples of real case scenarios.
So thanks, Jenny. So I'll just give a little introduction about myself so folks listening have an idea where I'm coming from. So I'm a pathologist. I'm the president of Avero Diagnostics, which is now a division of Versant Diagnostics. I do pathology actively, both on the anatomic and the clinical side, and also have a role in our administrative work. I've been in practice for about 15 years, so I've seen the span of time when the world of pathology has gone from a time when reimbursements were high enough and profit margins were high enough that you could deal with a lot of inefficiencies and still be quite profitable, still be a successful company. That has clearly changed over time and is probably going to continue changing, where the pressures on pathology groups and labs to be efficient and to actively monitor how they get paid is critical for survival. So I've seen this change over time, and I've seen that having really close awareness of these things on a day-to-day basis is just critical for survival in this world. So we are a user of LigoLab, both the LAS and the RCM part of LigoLab. I'm not part of the LigoLab company, but I'm speaking from a perspective of a user. So the first slide here for mine, all these slides for myself are going to be related to the RCM use of LigoLab and just RCM use in general in today's world of pathology. First slide here is revenue integrity. This refers to just an awareness of your revenue flow. Are you being paid what you should be paid by your payers? And this is critical. There were times when you could You could just not pay attention to this, and maybe payers weren't paying you what your contractual rates should be. And that seems like it just shouldn't happen, but it does actually happen. You need to be constantly aware of, are your reimbursement rates what they are in your contracts? And are there changes over time with the reimbursements? Sometimes payers actually do change what they pay for certain codes. And sometimes that's announced to us, but sometimes it's not actually. Sometimes payers will just announce this on their own websites, and we have no idea. So the only way to notice this is when you have your RCM system set up to be constantly monitoring what you're getting paid, and are you getting paid what your contractual amounts should be. So in addition to that, you need to be tracking whether reimbursements are dropping in a dramatic fashion that might indicate some other issues, not just changes in what payers pay, but changes in how they're covering certain codes. For example, sometimes medical necessity requirements change. Different payers have different requirements. Sometimes they change them over time. If you're not watching this, you may be doing testing and getting nothing for it without noticing it. Also, denials need to be tracked closely. Obviously, we all experience denials. Sometimes those denials are appropriate, sometimes they're not. So an example from our history is our system that we have set up, obviously, is tracking when we're getting paid, when we're not. And when we're looking at these reports, we noticed that from one payer, it happened to be Kaiser at the time, we were suddenly getting dramatically lower reimbursements. And we dig into this and see that we're getting routine denials for all surgical pathology codes, which obviously was a significant alarm for us. Turns out what happened was some internal change at Kaiser changed how we were enrolled with them as a group. So we were previously enrolled appropriately. We had made no changes at all, but some system change within their system incorrectly changed our enrollment codes with them. Suddenly, those codes indicated to them that all surgical pathology should be denied for us. Obviously, a huge problem. So we got on top of this. This could have been a major problem for us if it had gone too long, but we got on top of this quickly. Still took quite a long time to get it corrected within their system, but at least we noticed it as fast as possible and were able to correct that and for both going forward and look back cases. But these things I've seen in the past, how these things can go weeks, months, or even years without being noticed unless you're actively monitoring them. So your RCM system needs to be set up for tracking things like this that you don't expect to happen. Go ahead to the next slide. So regional analytics. We are a group that over time, we're in the Northwest, but we have also expanded to other parts of the country. And over time, we've had significant volumes coming in from other states. And we've learned that sometimes not all volume is good volume. Not all clients are good clients. Not all regions are good regions. And you don't know that unless you're tracking it actively. Sometimes also areas, testing types, and clients that were originally great work to have change over time. So as an example, we do both anatomic pathology and clinical lab work, including molecular testing. Over time, some of that molecular testing has been great work to do, great reimbursements, consistent reimbursements, but things can change. So for example, women's health testing, we had a very significant volume of women's health testing, generally was quite profitable. But over time, certain payers end up changing their coverage rules. And this can be a major problem if you don't notice it quickly. Also, regionally, depending on your payer mixes from certain clients, if you don't have specific plan coverage for certain areas with their Medicaids, for example, or for certain HMOs that are region by region, sometimes those can be tolerated if you don't get paid for certain cases. But depending on the volume of those denials, it can cause a major problem too. So for us, we at one point had significant volumes of primarily women's health, but also other work coming in from other states. And we knew that certain cases were denied because of Medicaid, but over time, those denials just increased and increased. And at some point, the work becomes unprofitable. If you're not tracking that actively, you can go years doing work that's just actually bringing you down rather than growing your business. But this needs to be tracked. It's surprising, but it can actually go a long time without being noticed. So region by region, you have to know, are you getting paid from the various states? Some states, yes, some states, no. You need to know that the work is worthwhile. Also, test by test. There may be some tests that are just suddenly not being paid. Sometimes you can do something about that, sometimes you can't, but you need to track this. And ultimately, you need to get to the granularity level of client by client. Not all clients are good clients from a business perspective. And we went through a phase where we determined that there were clients that we had that we needed to say goodbye to because based on payer mixes and test types, we just were not profitable. Again, it's surprising, but you can go a long time doing work for regions and clients without making money on it if you don't watch it actively. Next slide then. Billing automation. So another major change we've had over time is efficiency of our workforce in our billing department. So we have an internal billing department that has had some major changes over time in the staffing levels. We've had different billing software that we've used over time, and I can tell you that there are major differences in efficiency of your staff depending on the software. For me, the most important thing is automation. So there's a lot of work that billing staff does, depending on the system that they're working in, that may be just repetitive manual work that could easily be automated if you have a system that's set up correctly. So for example, eligibility checks. The only way to know if a patient's insurance that was given and entered into the system is actually the correct insurance and they're currently eligible for it is to do eligibility checks. This can either be done with third-party software, or it can be done internally within your system if the system is set up properly. We have it set up for automated real-time eligibility checks, so every case that comes through is automatically checked for the patient's eligibility, so that our demographic biller staff can be focused only on ones that need attention rather than ones that are fine. Insurance discovery is the process of using tools for patients who do not have insurance listed and going out and searching for insurance that they may have. We don't do this on every single case. We do this on cases where the insurance doesn't appear to be eligible. This can, again, be done with third-party software. The problem is that for those staff that are doing that, they need to enter information into that software on a case-by-case basis. It takes a lot of time to enter all that information. We now have this built into the system. They just click a button and almost immediately see the insurance that's appropriate if it's found. ICD-10 pointers, that's the process of, for example, if a clinician gives you a list of ICD-10 codes, and maybe they did a list of different assays, you need to have the appropriate ICD-10 codes put on the appropriate CPT codes for the claim. Otherwise, those CPTs may be denied. So the pointers is on the claim, the system of having certain ICD-10 codes associated with the right CPT codes. In prior systems that we've been in, our billers are doing that on a manual basis for every single line. And it is incredibly time intensive. Whereas we now have the system set up that the system knows that, okay, here's an ICD-10 code. That one is an appropriate one for this test. So it automatically arranges those. We still have the billers look at the coders look at those cases to make sure they agree. But it's all automated up front to save time. Predictive denial prevention in our context is referring to automatic flags that we have set up so that when the system believes we are likely to get denied for a certain CPT code, it points that out to our billing team and they can pay attention to those specific lines. So for example, medical necessity, whether the ICD-10 code that's associated with the CPT will justify that test based on the payer rules is one critical element. The other one is NCCI edits. So for example, certain CPT codes based on NCCI edits are not compatible with other CPT codes unless you have modifiers on those lines to justify why both were done on the same case. In some systems, this is all manual. In the system we have set up, it is all pointed out automatically so that our billers can pay attention to those lines specifically. Ultimately, you want your billers focused on the most important cases, the most complex cases, not simple cases that should be automated. And then finally, you want your billers to be efficient. So similar to the dashboard that Jenny just showed for the LIS side, on the RCM side, we have dashboards set up so that we can constantly monitor whether our team themselves are efficient. And unfortunately, sometimes you find issues. So for example, we've had issues where someone who was previously very productive suddenly had certain days where there were several hours a day where there was zero productivity. Turns out because we have people working remotely, it's really hard to monitor people unless you're tracking this through your software. Obviously, then you need to address that and fix it. So we're constantly analyzing our efficiency. Overall, we've basically taken our billing staff in half over the last few years by using some of these efficiencies. Next slide. And I'll hand it over to Suren.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Fortna. And, AI is really brewing up a perfect storm to help us, become more of like a system of a record to system of insight and actions so that, we can unlock this data. And, we've been working on a lot of AI initiatives. We've deployed already a bunch that I want to share with and also tell you a little bit about the roadmap of just the AI initiatives that we are rolling out this year. So, at LigoLab, we're not just watching AI transform healthcare. We're actively building it into our daily workflows for our customers and hopefully driving a lot of benefit through that. So one of the new features that we've released is integrated speech to text dictation built into the LIS. So what does that mean, right? It's basically we're embedded real-time speech to text and speech to command directly into LigoLab. Like while Dragon, Dictate, and Fusion, and so on, we're still partners with them, and those tools work. We saw that they don't work as well as they could. So we decided to take advantage of all of the new speech to technology in AI and roll this out so pathologists and lab techs, grossing techs basically can have faster, case documentation, fewer errors, and a much better user experience. So, and this works really well for high volume laboratories and teams. Next, we see a big bottleneck in the order entry piece, especially when we're trying to do a full order entry. Some labs split it up, but obviously all of this still costs the laboratory quite a bit of time and money in both labor and also in errors that could come from it. So we're applying machine learning to read and extract order data elements from the scanned requisition, a variety of different requisitions, right? So no more manual entry, no more errors, misreads of handwriting, just fast and clean order intake. You can adjust what the confidence rate you want. Like we recommend to put 99%. And if it doesn't hit that, right, it won't bring it in. And it's there for someone to look at it and approve and move forward rather than just typing what's in front of them already. This software can do that so much faster. So the items that are marked in blue, these have been built and deployed in our new version. And then here are some new things that we're working on to release. I'm quite excited about it. So one of the functions, imagine basically ChatGPT, but with all of your lab data. So imagine talking or even speaking like a question, show me all the cases delayed in grossing last week, and you get an instant answer. Our natural language data interface is bringing intuitive and AI-powered visibility into all the corners of the laboratory. So this is something that's coming. So you can just generate a report by asking the system to generate it for you, rather than clicking around and so on. So next, we're piloting with a partner laboratory. We've built basically a screening derm case screening tool that we're going to be rolling out that can assist with prioritization, triaging, and even helps with the preliminary review. Basically prepares the final diagnosis for a pathologist to accept or not. Built completely and works with all scanners as well. We're also rolling out our embedded IMS system as well that will basically have deep integration into the image management. You can do your digital pathology directly out of the system, single login, of course, and a lot of functions. And inside of that, we're going to have AI marketplace of all kinds of image analysis tools. And then another project that we've been working on for quite some time, it's very tricky, but we're perfecting it every day. And it's basically ICD and CPD coding just purely off of looking at the case. So it's basically, can auto-suggest ICD codes as the final diagnosis is completed, basically sorting the top coding to the top on side of the case. And it doesn't, not only does it speed up billing, it also improves accuracy and, more importantly, first pass acceptance and payment. And we're not missing, you're not leaving any dollars on the table for the hard-earned work that the laboratory has done. So all this is being developed with and for your lab, because AI shouldn't be a black box, right? It should be a multiplier of your team. Like, we really view our software as a digital, not just like a static system. It's a digital labor that the laboratory gets. So it can be a lot more accurate, and it is definitely a lot more better for the bottom line. So with that, let's move forward to look at different frameworks for transitioning to a system of action, right? What do we need to do as laboratorians to get there, right? What are some things we should consider? So it's, like I said, it's not just something that is going to store data, right? We all have that, but how do we extract action or insights out of this? So we've developed a framework to guide that transition. So it's not about ripping out what we have, it's about upgrading the way your systems, teams, and the data works together. So it's not just a switch, it's really a journey. So first, you want to minimize and consolidate platforms. So you want to have as few data silos as possible. So when your LIS, RCM, reporting, all these Excel sheets, outreach systems, they all live in different places, and they slow each other down, and really it eliminates the ability for having high visibility into your operations. So consolidation eliminates friction and makes the lab operate as one. We recommend also, if this is your reality and you can't do much about changing all of these disparate systems, consolidating them, we recommend at the very least building out a data warehouse if you have this need, and integrate everything into it. So instruments, billing, and so on, they all should move between systems, and hopefully the heart of it is your data center, data warehouse, and the integration creates a live connected foundation that every event triggers from there could bring things up for attention and maybe help move things forward and create rules on top of that. So the rule engine is really the brains of the entire system. So instead of relying on memory for Betsy to remember what does Dr. Fortna need, and the customers need, and so on, you can build all these things into the rule engine for the software to do the work for you. So and you map that to your SOPs. So if this, then that, right? That's the rule engine. But you do this at scale with anything that all the discrete elements of the laboratory are available, and you can build any kind of a conditional rule and create a trigger. So auto routing cases, flag missing data, assign priorities without lifting a finger. The system is doing the work for you. So role-based intelligence is each user sees only what they need to see, nothing more and nothing less. And dashboards, alerts, and workflows are tailored by role to reduce the noise. We have a lot of data, right? A lot of noise. But what we really need is a lot of focus. And this is something that we need to really pay attention to and not overwhelm the user. And I think really the most important thing is this continuous feedback loop, right? So we have to close this loop, right? Every action creates data, and that feeds back into the system, driving the QA, auditing, exception tracking, and drives this continuous improvement. So the system doesn't just support your lab, it evolves with it. Transitioning isn't about changing systems. It's about changing how your system thinks, reacts, and learns. And this framework gives you the blueprint to deserve that. So let's look at that. Let's go to the next slide. And if your LIS isn't actively helping your team to do their job better, it's time for something more. We don't just help you collect and store the data, right? We help you use it and act on it and adapt it and to lead it. So what labs really deserve is faster decision making, less rework, more automation, happier teams, and healthier margins. So with that, I'll pass it off to Michael to go over, some of the takeaways and also bring up some questions that have potentially come up that we'd be happy to answer.
Oh, wonderful. Fascinating discussion. A lot of insight there, a lot to unpack. So as Suren mentioned, very soon, in fact, now, if you have some questions on your mind, feel free to use the Zoom application to send them our way. We will have time for sure to get to some questions. At the very end of this presentation, we'll also have direct contact information for all of the panelists here. So if you're a little shy, you can reach out a little bit later to them individually. But I think it's really clear that the one asset that laboratories have is data, and then putting that data to work for you. I like the reference here of command center. Rather than just a point-to-point system, you have a system that's actively working for you and your business. And then I think also very clearly brought up by Dr. Fortna was, not having that ability to understand what is happening in real time, and then having that information at your fingertips so you can make a decision that will stop the bleeding, if you will, in particular if it's on the RCM side, I think was something to really focus on. In fact, the RCM discussion was very interesting to me. Dr. Fortna, you said you've been in practice for 15 years. When did you notice that switch from, hey, it's a pretty lucrative business, even if we're leaving some revenue on the table, no big deal? When did that switch really kind of hit home for you, and you knew you and your group had to take action?
Well, the most obvious time when that happened was, I believe it was 2013, when Medicare changed their reimbursement of primarily the 88305 CPT code, but also some other ones. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like a 50% cut of, I believe, the TC side of that. That was dramatic, obviously. It's not the only code we use, but it's the top one. So that was a big one. But I think then that was sort of the start of a lot of changes that happened over time. So once Medicare made that change, they've also reduced some payments on certain other codes over time after that. And then other payers, some payers, your contract is directly attached to, it's like a percentage of the Medicare rate. So if that's the case, those payers might change immediately. Other payers, the rates aren't necessarily tied to it so directly, but they still, over time, when they have an opportunity to change or renegotiate your rates, do that and use that as a justification. So it didn't all happen immediately at that point, but that was the first real trigger, I would say. On the clinical lab side, rates have also started reducing. Now, the PAMA rate reductions have been postponed. I think the future is still a little bit uncertain there, but they certainly haven't been increasing much. So it's been sort of there've been some major changes at certain time points, but also just sort of a slow reduction of profitability, along with the fact that inflation happens and supplies and rent and salaries and everything else goes up. So yeah, it's just become more challenging over time to maintain profitability. What it means is that on the anatomic side, pathologists need to be efficient. They need to read more cases, and we need to make sure that we're getting paid for the cases that we're doing. Same on the clinical lab side, we need to be efficient, and we need to track everything closely.
Okay, we do have some questions that have come on in. It's in the Q&A section of Zoom for the panelists to take a look at, and I will read as well. So first one, for AI requisition scanning, what evaluation criteria are there when scanning the requisition? Can the user specify those?
So the way the AI scanning works is each requisition type gets pre-trained. We have a general model that you could use to just take on a requisition, throw it into the system, and it tries to figure out where everything is. But because there's always, a limited amount of types of requisitions, and by limited, 20, 30, right? Not hundreds and thousands. That gives us an opportunity to take those and train the model on different requisition types. And also you can, select, it's not, like I said, it's not just a black box. The AI helps us, brings things to our attention, and we can say, yeah, that's right. You did find the first name on the requisition. It's here. So, it helps build all of the different discrete elements off of that requisition type, right? And then we set different criterias, like, for example, confidence rate, right? Did we detect this handwriting properly, right? It's typically a lot of the recs are, come in, they're pre-printed, and that obviously makes the job of the scanning system or the interpreting system a lot easier. But, there's a lot of times that come, with handwriting, and confidence rate is the main criteria you want to have there. So then if there's an error, basically it doesn't detect it and it doesn't move it into the order entry field. So the way it works, in LigoLab, you can batch or scan in real time. Really depends on your workflow. Typically, pathology departments want to bring everything in real time. So that way the case moves forward. You're not waiting for the batch to finish, and you want to start filling the grossing team, feeding them the cases. So in that environment, you just start with a scan, and right away on the side of the screen, you have the requisition, and you have your order entry, and you see it mapped to the fields right away. And wherever the system doesn't accept the confidence rate or thinks it's an error, it just doesn't bring it in, because why do you want errors in there? You let the user bring all of that in. And I can kind of skim some of the questions, and looks like AI has been a good topic and of interest to everyone. Hopefully I answered the question there, and I can move on to the dashboards that Dennis brought up. Thank you, Dennis. And the dashboards are definitely by user, by role, by department, and think of it as different widgets that are available in the system that you can pre-build for different users or roles. And when they log in, it's there. It's like their first screen or their second screen, really depends on the user setup. And in those widgets are highly customized to, that entire panel of the dashboard that the user sees. And they can have multiple, if they have different roles also, they can have multiple tabs They wear a histology hat, and maybe they're also an administrator or whatever, or like Dr. Fortna is a pathologist and also an executive. So he might have two different dashboards that he wants to take a look at. And billing is obviously of a big interest. So he'll have also a billing dashboard. So all of these high-level dashboards allow you to discreetly add any kind of a widget, all built inside LigoLab. You're not going outside into a third-party software to do this. It's all available. It comes with a bunch of widgets already available, but we're more than happy to build at no additional cost. We build out, any widget that the lab wants, because we know it's something that other people will need as well. So hopefully I answered your question there, Dennis. Then the next one you have, will the AI application require additional computing resources? Absolutely, but not on your environment. All of this happens on third-party HIPAA and with BAA, by the way, compliance. So this happens in the cloud. Basically, the tokens or the processing is done by the AI provider. So we are not necessarily considering ourselves the foundational model, right? We pay them for it, and they run it on their side and pass this on to us. I think we have a question from Ahmad, and it looks like the question is probably related to the requisition scanning as well. So yeah, the scanners, they all work out of the box. You don't need to go and get new equipment. Any kind of a scanner that is Twain compatible will work. So if your computer can see it, LigoLab can see it as well. No need to go and change, any of the hardware. We're always backwards compatible with all hardware, by the way, whether it's your printers, cassette printers, or like Zebra printers and so on. We have really high level of compatibility out of the box. All right, let's see. Will LigoLab work with lab users to determine derived benefits and ROI from the system and the newer AI application? Yeah, of course. I mean, we would definitely be delighted to do this, but I think maybe I'm not sure how specific. I don't feel like the question is very specific, unless maybe someone else wants to answer.
I can speak to that, because I think that's really my role, is to work with labs to kind of assess workflows, suggest ways that the system can help to improve your workflows, make them more efficient. But ROI is definitely a part of that. So typically when labs decide to integrate new technology that's offered, we'll work with you on KPIs. So we'll capture your current KPIs in your current system, and then we'll look at them retrospectively, in 6 months, 12 months, and see if we're realizing those ROIs. So I think the answer to that is definitely yes. And depending on what you're wanting more information on, we will work with you to number one, estimate that coming out of the gate, but two, to follow up and make sure that we're doing our part as well.
In fact, Jenny leads a team that before someone becomes a LigoLab client, we come on site to see if we can actually help. Right? There's times we actually don't take the business because we want to make sure we're driving maximum value and it's a fit for all of us. We're looking to help where we can drive that value. And Jenny basically spends a day at the laboratory with her team, and they prepare a 20 to 30 page document that talks about all of the different opportunities of what we see that and this is all surface level, right? How much can you do in a day at the laboratory? Not that much, but we're still able to see whether it would be a major impact. And we prepare this report and we commit to delivering all of that functionality before we even sign any contracts.
I got a question for Dr. Fortna. Just his opinion. AI is certainly a huge topic, no matter what you're referring to in the healthcare industry right now. So, Dr. Fortna, from your point of view, where do you see AI having the most impact for you and your business?
Well, that's a great question. I think all the possible uses that Suren has gone over could be useful for our business. Um, you know, obvious ones are the requisition, AI interpretation of requisitions, assistance with billing, just, even more efficiencies on the billing side. Honestly, the thing that I'm the most excited about as a pathologist is the possibility of having AI kind of learn how we diagnose cases. And I personally think this will become most useful in kind of the high volume biopsy cases, where I think it's already commercialized the most broadly right now. And I don't actually use this yet, but for prostate biopsies, there are tools out there that can kind of identify out of a set of, say, 12 cores, can identify the areas that it thinks are cancer, and then you can focus on those. I think that may be helpful. I don't personally use it because when I've tried it, I find myself still feeling the need to look very closely at every core anyway, so it doesn't seem to really speed me up. Where I think it will be more useful is things like dermatology and GI biopsies, where they're high volume, there's a lot of repetitiveness, and if it can kind of learn how you diagnose and pre-write a report for you, and then what you're doing is you still need to look at the case, but if what that means is, a large percentage of the reports that it writes for you are exactly what you would have said anyway, then you're clicking it out and moving on to the next case rather than dictating and whatever else you need to do. So I think that's part of what Suren was kind of alluding to on the dermatology side there. Some of that's already in place in certain places. I think it's very early in its evolution, but I think over time we're going to see that really transforming our efficiency. I'm slightly less excited about some of the other goals that I think people have. Like there's for the larger cases, finding areas that we missed and things like that. I think that will be used, but I don't think that that's quite as exciting to me because, I don't think we missed that much, to be honest. I think for me, it's more about the efficiency.
One more, I think we can slide in one more maybe for Suren and Jenny. I think it's interesting to get a sense of how LigoLab, or an LIS software vendor, an advanced LIS software vendor, comes up with what new features and enhancements to potentially add to the system. Can you kind of give us a sense of that process and how it works with LigoLab?
Ladies first.
Thanks. I was actually just reading through this question. There's a lot of really good questions built into this. So does LigoLab automate digital path coding? We will automate coding just like we do for all of our other codes. So those digital pathology codes will be built into the system and triggered on the scan. So short answer to that is yes. As far as are you seeing reimbursements for digital path codes? My understanding is yes, and I'm actually going to ask Dr. Fortna to speak to that because I know that your lab is actually billing those.
It's variable. Some yes, some no. So there's some payers that deny them every time. Medicare pays a cent per code, so it's really just a tracking thing for Medicare. And then there are other payers that are actually paying them, and it's pretty all over the map in terms of how much they pay. I suspect that those that do pay, like some of them now will just pay like a percentage of what we charge, which I think is the pattern that they do when it's a new code that they haven't really figured out what they want to do with yet. And eventually they'll probably have set prices for them. But yes, the answer is yes, we are seeing reimbursements from some of the payers for them.
All right, thanks. And then does LigoLab support sending overflow cases out digitally when needed? And the answer to that is yes. The integrated viewer does work within the LIS. So all of the LIS functionality and send out automation is there with the benefit of the digital viewer being integrated. So all of that functioning will be built into the system. And then can digital overflow work be reincorporated into LigoLab for seamless delivery of reports to ordering providers? So I'm not sure about the digital overflow portion, what they're referring to, but As far as the incorporated viewer, yes, seamless delivery of reports. So all of your LIS functionality will be there along with the viewer inside the system. So you don't have to go out to third-party software, no third-party software subscriptions. You get the benefit of everything that you would do in a top-of-the-market viewer, but integrated right into your pathologist sign-out screen. So this is a feature I am really excited to be launching this year. And Suren, I think you might have a little more to add.
Yeah, I think I interpreted the last question, but if the parties that are handling the overflow work are also leveraging LigoLab, right? They don't necessarily have to license LigoLab. You, as a laboratory, can easily deploy an account for these overflow multi-facility environment, basically for them to run and build a case out of, or build the case within LigoLab. Then it will absolutely take that report and deliver it to the provider, seamlessly. So that LigoLab can help with, the IMS and the LIS side right away, to have it all in the cloud, and someone basically logs in and they can only see the cases, obviously, that need their attention. They're not, and run statistics and see dashboards and so on, just limited to the array of cases that they have been worked on or need to pay attention to. And then I know we're running really late on time, but I wanted to answer Michael's question on how do these ideas come to us on what to work on. Well, it definitely, we try to listen to our customers as much as possible. Jenny helps run our advisory calls on a quarterly basis and also meets with customers. We try to understand what the demands of the market is from there. So that's a very important source. We internally try to, look at the future of where the industry is going. We attend conferences, listen to webinars like this to see where and what we should be working on so that the labs get maximum benefit. And we build those. So and then we have a customer support team that is also obviously bringing up problems and issues. And as we go from one laboratory to another, every lab is different. We do one of the things that Jenny and her team do, and then pass this information to our implementation team that does it in a much greater form, is a domain analysis and a gap analysis, which we understand, like, here's all of the things you have in place today. When we bring in LigoLab, we don't want you to have a single missing function. And if we have something that's not out of the box or super configurable, which 95% of times anyone asks for something, it's there and available, but we can't, it's not a magic genie. Some things still need to be done. We will go out and build for those laboratories. And we keep getting increasingly larger and larger laboratories with more complexity, more software that the system is replacing. And obviously with that, there's some gaps that we help fill. We're blessed to have a large smart engineering team that can roll out software in high quality at a really rapid pace that allows us to bring all of this functionality to our partners in the industry.
I think that's a really good place to end. Thank you to Dr. Fortna, Suren, and Jenny. Very insightful conversation. Thanks to all who tuned in. We will be doing many more of these webinars in the near future, so if you have interest, just stay tuned to ligolab.com, and we will promote them as they come along.